The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just the ghost of you and me. It's just the smoke and gasoline. It's just the ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr., and with me as always my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How's everybody tonight?
I'm going to warn you ahead of time. What you are going to hear tonight is going to be kind of out there. And your first reaction is probably going to be to not believe it, that it's complete and total BS. But all I ask is that you keep an open mind and listen to what these people have to say. And then we will try to figure out together whether or not we believe this thing. So without further ado, we're going to get to the article tonight. Tonight's article comes from UFOsightingsfootage.uk, and the headline is Whistleblower Claims He Was Stationed on Mars to Defend 5 Colonies. In the year 2021, claiming to have been stationed on Mars really isn't met with ridicule or skepticism. It's actually met with, "It doesn't surprise me." But if we go back just 15 years, it would have been met with laughter. Quote, the retired officer, known only as Captain K, also claims to have served in a secret space fleet run by a multinational organization called the Earth Defense Force. The ex-naval infantryman, who uses the pseudonym Captain K, says he was posted to the Red Planet to protect 5 human colonies from indigenous Martian life forms. He claims he then spent nearly 3 years serving in a secret space fleet run by a multinational organization called the Earth Defense Force, which recruits military personnel from countries including the US, Russia, and China. And that's from the Daily Record. Okay, in terms of believing this story and saying those 4 words just above, it doesn't surprise me. It means, though, that it's not that far from being on the fence or skepticism itself, if you think about it. But this is where the huge monumental difference between 15 years ago and where we are today in people's thoughts and opinions. It's akin to a magnitude 7 earthquake of change, which, believe me, was a hard-fought trail of ruined reputations, broken dreams, ruined careers, and devastating lots of innocent families along the way. This is never given much thought. Finish this train of thought at the bottom of this post. Below is an apparent soldier stalking the Mars rover in the middle of the image circled. So here we're going to see an actual photograph of a soldier on Mars who is watching or stalking or something the Mars rover. So here is the photograph that they're talking about. Now they say that this is a soldier in camouflage, and in the very top of the photograph you can just see the bottom of the Mars rover is what it looks like. Now this, I don't know if this is a soldier or if this is just a rock. When you blow it up, it kind of looks like a rock. But it also, at the bottom section, it looks like it might have a leg there. So I'm not entirely sure. It could be a soldier in camouflage that just looks like a rock, like a ghillie suit, like a sniper would wear. But there's the photograph, so get a good look at it, and you can judge for yourself. And we will move on. Captain K says he was stationed on Mars at a base called Arius Prime, which is inside a crater on Mars. And guys, one of the many missions he undertook with over 1,000 other men, nearly all active human personnel on Mars, and women, was tasked with recovering an alien artifact in a cave which was apparently sacred to one of the two alien life forms. One was I-second and the other was reptilian. What is I-second? That's a weird phrase there. One was I-second and the other was reptilian. It was the latter which the cave was sacred to. It tells me that the reptilian species, at least, aren't a heathenistic species, or a godless people, maybe. Captain K is currently seeking documents to verify his experiences, and for now offers his testimony as evidence of a breakaway human civilization based upon Mars. This part of the quote is absolutely stunning. It means that there's very high and prominent people that are actively looking to blow the lid off this well-kept secret. It includes men and women. Parts of his testimony is consistent with the claims of other whistleblowers that have previously come forward to reveal secret events on Mars. Michael Relf, for example, claims that he was also recruited for a 20-year tour of duty that involved covert operations on Mars. Also, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, claims that covert efforts were made to recruit her to join a colony on Mars that was headed by famed physicist Dr. Hal Puthoff. This is truly mind-blowing. It's unprecedented and it's damning evidence because one person, the whistleblower, is inadvertently verifying the other. And one of them, I'm pretty sure that the U.S. government will not vote forward and say that Laura Magdalene Eisenhower is a liar. It's a tin of worms that a lot of people wouldn't want open. Lee Lewis, UFO sightings footage. So I've given you guys some pretty impressive information, and that's nothing that I've done. Anyone can gather tidbits online and say, have a look at that. It's the information itself which is impressive, and it's where it is which is mind-blowing. It's in the public domain. It's sat in plain sight, so to speak, online. It's all dependent on the will to look it up, to follow your hunch, and it all comes down to what you believe. We all know what happened to people who reported UFOs, or alien abductions, etc. Their lives were torn apart for talking about possible aliens, and people don't even give it thought. Hundreds, if not thousands of people had their lives dragged from underneath them. Employers sacked people. Lots were put in asylums. People classed as incapable or untrustworthy with often harsh consequences. Below is what can literally only be described as a train axis. Guys, natural formations just do not happen like this at all. And there never will be a natural occurrence like this ever. Probably. LOL. Now here we're going to see another photograph of an anomaly on Mars that they're using in this article. So here is the photograph. It is a blurry photograph. It was taken by the rover. And it is what appears to be either gears or, honestly, it looks like wheels. It looks like two tires and the drive shaft in between them. That is amazing. Yeah, that's definitely not something that just occurred naturally. I wish the photograph was not so blurry so we could get a better look at what it is, though. Because from what it looks like wheels. Like the bottom of suspension of a car or a vehicle of some sort. But because it's so blurry, it's hard to really tell for absolute certain. But there is the photograph, so you can judge once again for yourselves. I've written that because nobody gives it any thought. I just thought it suitable to remember the lives of people broken along the way to get UFO disclosure. We've got that now. 2017 to 19. We had UAP disclosure. We won. Anyways, so starting off with this dark secret of Captain K, which is a pseudonym of a military person who obviously wants to and wishes to remain anonymous, tells a graphic story of being stationed on Mars with the mission of defending 5 colonies, which are at war or at least regularly do battle with aliens on Mars. Oh, I get it. It's so far-fetched and so alien that it's virtually impossible for me to take it seriously. I've got to struggle with all the negative thoughts that I think it is. like it's fake. It's a fantasy by a fantasist. It's a made-up story by an attention seeker, even though it's anonymous. See, there's lots of stuff that once we delve into this, we find a lot of stuff that is extremely plausible, highly likely even. In terms of change, this was probably one of the slowest possible on record. In terms of a significant cultural change, it was an inevitable one. Some people could see it, but some people were not thinking far enough ahead. Everything is possible. Everything means absolutely everything. And that is the end of this article. Okay, so that was the article. Now there's a lot to kind of unravel here. Several different things in this article were extremely interesting. First of all, as far as credibility of this article, you have a whistleblower who claims to have been stationed on Mars to protect these 5 colonies. There were 2 photographs that were included in this article, one of what looked to be like cogs and an axle, and one of a soldier actually on Mars. If you are listening on the radio, go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr., and you can watch the video of the replay of this episode. And in that video, I will have on the screen for you those photographs so you can actually look at them and see them for yourself. But as far as credibility goes, you got the photographs, you have the whistleblower who claims to have been there, you have the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, who has claimed that she was approached and asked to go to one of these colonies on Mars. So we're not talking about fly-by-night people that are not trustworthy at all. We're talking about the great-granddaughter of a former president and military personnel who claim to have been stationed there. Outside of this article, it has been going around for years in the government, in the NASA community, and among a lot of the conspiracy community about the secret space program. I myself have heard from very reputable sources inside NASA that after the moon landings, there were a lot of missions that took place that were off the books, so to speak. They were never publicized. The public knew nothing about them. There were other trips to the moon that were not known by the public. And I've also heard that there were missions to Mars, manned missions to Mars after the moon landings. So this would be decades ago. I have heard that they did establish a colony on the surface of Mars. I have not personally seen for myself this colony, but I have heard from people that I consider to be reputable, off the record, that this colony exists and that we have went there, manned missions to Mars. Do I believe that there are 5 colonies on Mars? Well, I say if there's 1, why couldn't there be 5? If originally they went and set up a single colony, it would make sense to me that they would spread out. So I have no reason to disbelieve the idea that there could be 5 instead of just the single colony that I've heard about. Another interesting thing in this article is they talk about 2 separate alien races, one of which is a reptilian alien race, and then the other one in the article they call I-Second, which I've never heard of before. I don't know if that was a typo and it was supposed to be something else, or if that's what this race is called, but I've never heard that term before in my life. If you know what that is, if you've heard it, please, in the comment section on the YouTube video, let us know, because I'd really be interested to find out what that was supposed to mean. But this is a very interesting article, and it really opens up a lot of things. Things that I know to be true, but we could never really discuss because it wasn't public knowledge. But now that this is out in the open in an article, we're free to kind of discuss it in a vague way. So first of all, let me say that 100% there absolutely were missions that were undertaken by NASA that were off the books. That's 100%. Absolutely was. I know for a fact. There were extra missions to the moon, and on those missions to the moon, it was said that they found an alien base on the moon. Just point blank. That's what was going on the moon. That aliens are there, and that they have built a base there, and that when we went to the moon, we saw them. There was even an attempt to blow up a structure on the moon where they sent a rocket that had a missile attached to it. And I actually watched the feed from the camera. It was a thermal feed from the camera that was mounted on that rocket. And on that feed, you can watch as it's approaching the moon, and you see a rectangular structure that is obviously a man-made structure, because nothing has perfect lines like that in nature. And being that it is a thermal piece of film, you see everything is blue, which means it's cold, except for that rectangular structure. In that rectangular structure is a lot of red, which means that there are heat signatures in that structure. So whatever they were trying to blow up, there was something probably alive, at the very least something hot, inside that rectangular structure that they were trying to get rid of. So on this feed, you watch this rocket approach, and it kind of follows all the way down to the structure, the feed does, and then the feed cuts off. So that is the detonation point where the feed cuts off. Now, I personally have watched that footage, so I can tell you 100% that is real footage. As far as what they were trying to blow up, the guess is that they were actually trying to bomb an alien base on the moon. Now, can I tell you 100% that that's what was happening? No, I cannot, because I did not have access to that information. All I know is that they were blowing something up, because I watched the feed. I can also tell you that I have heard from reputable sources that we did send a manned mission to Mars for the purpose of exploration, and on subsequent missions, the purpose was to set up a colony on Mars. Once again, I have not seen this colony. I have not seen footage from this colony, but I have heard from people who have. So as far as, is this article possible? I would say 100% it's possible. I think it's extremely interesting that they talk about a reptilian race of aliens that live on Mars, that have a temple on Mars. So it's obviously a native species to Mars, or at least it's a species that has been there for a long, long time. So let's compare that to some of the other things that I've covered on Paranormal News. You'll recall the one episode of Paranormal News where I was talking about a remote viewer who was working for the CIA, who saw the end of the Martian civilization. He saw a great cataclysm that took place, and he saw a reptilian race on Mars. Now, it's possible that whatever cataclysm took place that destroyed life on Mars, it's possible that the aliens that lived there weren't wiped out completely, that some of them that survived went underground, because whatever this cataclysm was destroyed their atmosphere. So it's possible that there's a surviving group that went underground and that live down in the underground structures, one of which is a temple that they talk about in this article, that they went and did missions to this temple to try to recover artifacts. So that matches up with other documented governmental things that have happened. In this case, it was a CIA remote viewer, and that is backed up by CIA documentation. We know that happened. So that's extremely interesting to me that those two things match. There's also the theories of a reptilian race that controls the world here on Earth. Everybody's heard those conspiracy theories that talk about shape-shifting reptilians. I covered on a very, very, very old episode, one of the first episodes of Staring. We talked about reports that the Queen of England was a reptilian and actually shape-shifted during a speech. And we presented tweets of people that were actually at the event where it happened, who said that they witnessed it happen. And there was a statement that was put out by the palace, by the monarchy, that stated that it happened and that the queen was a reptilian, and then that was taken down. But I managed to get a screenshot of it when it was up on the official website of the monarchy. So that was extremely interesting stuff. Now, did that actually happen, or was that some sort of prank? I don't know for sure. I wasn't there. But I know that the statement was put out. I know that the tweets did exist of people that were there that claimed that it happened right in front of their face. So you have shape-shifting reptilians on Earth. You have a reptilian race on Mars. So what you have to ask yourself is, if those are both true, and that's an if, okay? I'm not saying for sure they are, but if they are they connected? And if they are not connected, what are the odds that you have a reptilian race of aliens on Mars and a reptilian race of aliens here on Earth, and they didn't come from Mars? You also have theories that state that the reptilians here on Earth actually come from inside the Earth. This goes along with the hollow Earth theory, where they state that they live underground here on Earth and that they actually run everything, and they have people that have come up and run our government and stuff. I'm not saying that's true either. I'm just saying that it is a theory that kind of coincides with all of this. It's extremely interesting stuff. The problem you run into when you're dealing with the paranormal, when you're dealing with aliens, and when you're dealing with conspiracy, is you never know how much of it is actually true and how much of it is BS. Now, some of these things we can pinpoint down and say, okay, this is true because we've seen it, or this is true because it's backed up by documentation. Now, some of the things I've talked about are backed up by documentation. Other things I've talked about, such as the hollow earth theory about the reptilians that live inside the earth, all that is not really backed up by any actual documentation. It's just something that is talked about a whole lot in conspiracy circles. And I'm not saying I particularly buy into it either. I don't happen to think that the earth is hollow. I think that the hollow earth theory is not true. As far as reptilians running the world, I don't think that reptilians run the world. The Queen Elizabeth thing, though, that gives me pause, because I saw the statement that was put out, and I saw the tweets. And you also have Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, who has said publicly and claimed that he saw Queen Elizabeth turn into a lizard woman. He says that she's a reptilian, and he's seen it. Now, you can have your opinions on Russia, you can have your opinions on Putin, but for the head of state of a country to say something like that, there's got to be something to it. I seriously doubt that any head of state would come out and say something so outlandish and crazy if it wasn't true, or if at least he didn't believe it to be true. So that makes you kind of wonder. As far as, do the reptilians here on Earth come from Mars? That I have no idea. That's complete conjecture, but I find it interesting that one of the theories about the reptilians on Earth is that they're aliens. And if you have alien reptilians on Mars, which is the next planet over, it would stand to reason, especially if we went there and we have contact with these people. And remember, this whistleblower in this article said he did a 20-year tour of duty on Mars, which means he came back. So there's a to and from here. Okay, they can go there and they come back. So if we can go there and come back, I'm pretty sure they could come back too. And maybe there was some kind of deal struck to allow us to have colonies there for them to come here as well. Who knows? Once again, that is complete conjecture. I have no evidence of it. It's a theory that I'm thinking about as I'm talking. But I think that's the easiest explanation. If there are reptilians here on Earth, I think that's the easiest explanation for where they came from. Would be Mars. If this whistleblower is to be believed. Now, I think the race of reptilian aliens on Mars and the colonies on Mars are two separate things. I realize they're both part of this article, but what I'm saying is one could be true and the other could be false. They don't necessarily both have to be true or both have to be false. Because like I said in the beginning, I have heard from several sources that we do have colonies on Mars. So I'm willing to believe that that is the case. I've also seen a lot of weird stuff on the surface of Mars in photographs. Stuff that is not natural. So either there is an alien race on Mars that has left that stuff out, or we left it out when we were there for our colonies. One of those two things, or maybe both. Either way, I think that there's a lot more to the Mars story than we've been told. And that is no surprise, honestly, because the government hides everything from us. I recently did an episode of Paranormal News about 7 tunnel entrances that were found on Mars. And I actually showed a photograph of one of these tunnels in the episode. So if you want to see that, go to the YouTube channel once again, youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where you can see the photographs. But those photographs are real. And those tunnels are there. And they are rectangular tunnels. So they are straight lines. It's not like it's just a hole, like a cave. This is a manufactured tunnel on Mars. So what you have to ask is, how'd they get there? Who made them? If there's no life on Mars, then who built the tunnels? Who left the axle-looking thing? Looks like a set of wheels on an axle. Who left that out on the surface of Mars if we've never been there and there's no aliens there? How'd that get there? The photograph of the soldier on Mars. The photograph of the skulls on the surface of Mars that I covered in another episode of Paranormal News. How does that stuff get there if we are not there and aliens are not there? That's what you have to ask yourself. Now, I'm not saying, once again, that this article is 100% true, because I don't know. But if you've got a whistleblower who was stationed there for 20 years, and you have the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower saying that she was asked to go to one of these colonies on Mars and be a resident there, that's not something you can just dismiss and say it's BS. There's something to this. Now, this is one of those ones where I'm not going to be able to give you a definitive answer. But I can tell you, do I believe it? I'm pretty sure that this is true. At least parts of it is true. I have no reason to doubt that there's 5 colonies on Mars, because I've heard that there are colonies on Mars from people that I trust, who would know. I have no reason to doubt that there are aliens on Mars, because there's multiple government documents that state that there were aliens on Mars. I covered the one in the episode of Paranormal News I told you about. The CIA remote viewer who said it was a whole civilization there. Now, that comes from CIA documents. So our government believes that there either were or still are aliens on Mars. So I have no reason to say there aren't. Because if the government documents say there are, they would know better, right? It's something that they're covering up because it was classified information that got declassified because of Freedom of Information requests. So that's something that they were hiding from us. So why would they be hiding a lie? That doesn't make any sense. If it's a lie and misinformation, they would release that in order to mislead you. You wouldn't have to force them to release it through court. So I believe that there are aliens that exist. I believe that there are aliens on Mars because the government said that they know that there's aliens there. I believe that there are colonies on Mars because people who have worked on those kind of projects have told me that there were colonies on Mars. So I have no reason to doubt that this article is true. Now, as far as the Special Forces missions against these different alien races to protect the colonies, that makes sense to me too, because we're always at war with somebody. You know, I mean, if you put 5 colonies of human beings on a planet that has a native race of people living there, there's going to be some kind of drama that gets started. I guarantee it, because that's what we do. You're not going to have that many people, because think about how many people it would take to run a single colony. You're talking at least 10 to 15 people, at least. Maybe closer to 25 to 30, depending. Because you got to produce your own air, you got to produce your own water, you got to produce your own food. So you're talking a decent amount of people per colony. Then multiply that by 5. So you're talking anywhere from 50 to 150 people, at least, that live on Mars. You get that many people together, somebody's going to do something stupid and cause some drama. Guaranteed. And then you throw into the mix that you have military there. Military, what they do is fight. Okay, so even if they're in a peacekeeping role, their objectives are going to be military objectives. So you're going to have some kind of trouble brewing between the natives and us. That's just the way it always is going to be. Because there's going to be a fight for resources eventually. There's going to be the whole idea that we're kind of colonizing their planet. And even if the leadership says it's cool, not all the people are going to agree with that. I mean, imagine if an alien race came to Earth and decided to colonize Earth and start building colonies here. And our government said, yeah, it's cool. And they made a deal with them and it's all good. But they move into your town. And they're building their colony on your land and using your resources. I imagine that somebody's going to have a problem with that. You're going to have people that aren't going to go along with what the government says and say, screw the government, I don't care. These people are on our land and they're using our resources and we don't want them here. And there's going to be trouble. So I have no doubt that that's probably the same kind of scenario that would play out on Mars, but opposite. As us being the colonizers and them not wanting us there, or at least some of them not wanting us there. I can completely see that being the case. So, to sum up, I have no reason to doubt this article. Some of the things in this article I can confirm because I've heard from multiple sources that they are true. Some of the things I cannot confirm, but I don't doubt that they are true. So my ruling on it would be not just possible, but probable that this is true. So with that being said, I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on this and anything else that he would like to talk about. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
I'm 50-50 on it. I believe that I believe some of the stuff James is saying, I know for sure he's not lying about. The problem I have with some of it is they're not just colony Mars. The reptilians are supposed to be here, like he was talking about in the United States. And they're supposed to run the world. I don't know if I believe that either, but I believe they might exist. Like the Greys and other ones and the Indigo children. I heard the story about him talking about the moon. that, you know, that's where the dark side of the moon thing comes from. There's bases that aliens have made, and they've told us to stay off the moon. If you notice, we don't do stuff anymore. We don't advertise it anymore that we go to space, other than a couple times here and there, at the space station or some stupid shuttle. And it shouldn't say stupid shuttle, but a satellite or a shuttle or something like that. But I've heard about the space group thing that he was talking, Space Force, sorry, it's not group, Space Force. And now they're just barely talking about it, but it's been there for years. I believe that. I 100% believe that. I believe we've probably been to Mars. Now, the colony thing is, you know, I wouldn't put it past, like James says, this government, they'll do what they want. So, I mean, I'm not going to argue that part. That's probably probable. There's something going on. I know they're doing it on the moon. Do I believe that there's colonies of like people like us? I don't know. It would be very expensive because, like you said, you have to make your own air, your own stuff, and 25 to 100 people, I don't know, would be enough. But maybe if you did it in a certain, especially if we have other two, native species there, the reptilians, and I forget what he said the other name was, but I don't know if they would let you do that. I mean, they might have said, "Oh, cool," but there's, like he said, there's somebody's going to have a problem with it. They would have constant problems, especially what the rumors is with the reptilians. They don't really like us anyway. They're if some people think they run everything and they eat people, and the Vladimir Putin thing. He said he saw her do that. Like you said, why would an official like that? I mean, Vladimir Putin's a pretty crazy dude, but why would you make something up that crazy, especially when you're a president of a country? Especially against somebody like that, the Queen. I don't know. Maybe we made a deal with, maybe there's another species that we get along with. That's the other one he's talking about. We're cool with them, and we just have problems with the reptilians, and we've always have. And then, the colonies there, and we constantly have to build stuff because they're always destroying it. That's a possibility. I'm not going to say 100% on this because people say a lot of things, and it doesn't mean they're telling the truth. I could say that I've been going to a alien base for 20 years, and I could tell anybody that. Some people would believe it, and some people wouldn't. Doesn't mean I did. But I'm not saying that the guy's lying. But whistleblowers we have known in the past, especially in politics, have been caught lying in the first place. The problem I have with that is if he's going to talk like that, something would end up happening. They would have thrown him in jail by now. Something else would have happened to this guy. And we know what we're getting on that. But I believe some of it. I believe, like I said, 50 to 60% of it. I think it's getting blown out of proportion by people now. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's not impossible, like James says, I believe that we've done missions that they don't tell us. I know that. That's something I 100% agree with. It's probable, I'll say. I just don't know if the colony thing, I believe. But James says there is a colony there. Now, 5 to 6, maybe that since James hasn't really got involved in that for a while, maybe they have added things in there. But it would be a lot of money. And eventually somebody would run their mouth. It happens with everything. And now there is. And they probably making that person look crazy, but maybe, just think about this, guys. Maybe some of the movies we see about sci-fi and stuff, that we really do have some of these ships, and we really do go to other planets, and we just don't know about it. They hide it so good. Most people are not going to believe it anyway. Maybe sometimes that some of the movies, they're introducing us to something that's coming. Because a lot of people wouldn't know how to deal with this. This is real. Like we've told people before, you can't handle when you find out something like this is real. How could you? If you found out that we really have a colony in Mars and we've been lying for 60 years, people are going to hate this government. Trust me. You're going to have a lot of problems. So they gently do it by piece by piece by piece by piece. And that's why they give us a little taste and years later they give us more of a little taste, and eventually they're going to give us all, because somebody's going to come here and don't like us, and we're not going to be able to keep lying about they don't exist. There's too many videos that they exist. They are here. They exist, and I don't care what people think. It's too many sightings. It's impossible for us to be the only living beings all over the planet and universe. It's impossible. The numbers are impossible. And just like the Hollow Earth thing, I don't believe that crap either. That's another thing we don't believe. We're not in a big fan about that. But it is what it is. I think there's something that might have been there. But I don't know. I still have my opinions on the Hollow Earth. We've done a show about that before. I don't think that's where they're from. I think if something's here, they've been here for a while. They have something to do with us. They've hid what we originally were, so we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what the truth is. And even if we did, I don't know if people would believe it anyway. They would think it's a joke. People don't believe that giant sea turtles exist, and they do. They think they're fake. That's how ignorant people are, because they haven't gone out in the real world. They don't know the truth. Everything is a movie to people, and that's what the problem is. People think everything's fake. So when the real becomes real, no one can't. They just, it's just TV. Because in reality, they don't really want to know it's real, because they can't handle the truth. And that's what the problem is. It's kind of hard to believe this, but in the other sense, I wouldn't doubt it, because our government, every government, does what they want behind everybody's back, and they're going to continuously do it. They're never going to tell us the truth. We all can agree on that. And that no matter what country you're from or where you're at, it's all government. They're doing something we don't know about. James just has a little bit more detail because he knows certain things are going on. Now, I don't know what to say about it, really. I won't be surprised. We'll put it that way. That's my theory on it. I'm not surprised about any of this, what James has said or this article. I believe maybe some of it is blown out of proportion. Because the first thing people do is, he said he was from an alien camp, and on Mars, and so it must be true. The problem is you have to find out evidence. That's the only thing about this. Prove it. Now, Eisenhower's granddaughter or whatever, I don't know about that. Why would she say that? But people say a lot of things to become famous again. A lot of people I can argue about that. Her name's never going to be what her family was. Some people want to get that glory back, and they say crazy stuff. I'm not saying she's lying. I'm just saying that's a probable thing. Now, Armstrong seen stuff, aliens, stuff like that. People have gone to the Mars and moon, and the Mars and the moon have seen things and claim they have seen aliens. So I believe that. I believe there's probably different beings of aliens on Mars. We don't know how many there is. There's probably more. Some of the pictures, though, that have been on Mars have been proven fake. Some have been proven unknown too. So, like the pyramid, they have a picture of the pyramid on there, like the one out here in Egypt. Now, I believe that. Now, there's one where there's a creature running across the thing, but they said they said it was photoshopped in. There's other pictures of the soldiers. I've heard of that one. I don't know too much about that one. I don't know, because we believe that we haven't been there. We just send things there. But how do we really know we haven't been there? We go by what the government tells you. So, or what we get told on TV, that it hasn't happened yet. But I don't know if I believe that, because we don't tell the truth. They don't tell the truth. They never do. I don't know what I could believe anymore. It's crazy. But I believe aliens exist. I believe that this is a probable story. I think some of it's exaggerated, but I wouldn't. Listening to what James says, I believe there's probably something going on Mars. I won't doubt that. The moon's a whole different story. That I believe. like James said, I believe there's stuff going on there we don't know. That's why we don't really go there anymore. Mars, I don't know. I just think that something would come out by now, and it not just this. Oh, some whistleblowers, some more stuff would be, and maybe there's going to be more stuff that comes out. Like I said, I'm more about 60 to 70% now after hearing the story, but I still believe there's always somebody who's going to lie about something. Has to be more proof, man, and that's just my opinion. I'm not going to just go by because some guy said, "Oh, I worked there for 20 years," and even if he was in the military, I've met people who said they were in the military and then caught lying. I knew a guy that said he was a Navy SEAL, and then come find out he was lying. His wife said he was a cook, and he was lying to us about it. So you never know. People like to exaggerate and use valor, and that's proven fact that people lie about what they are, especially on social media. So that's the only issue I have. But other than that, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. That's what I could say on that, James. I wouldn't doubt there's a base going on there. It's not impossible. Why would they tell us anything? They never do anyway. So that's all I got to say, brother. There you go.
As always, you guys are going to make up your own mind. That's the whole point here, is for us to give you information and for you to decide for yourself what you think of it. But let me remind you what we have learned in the last couple years. We have had FBI and CIA documents that have been released that admit aliens exist. They talk about recovering bodies from crash sites. They talk about knowing that aliens are here, that they're visiting the planet. You have CIA documents that come out talking about remote viewers who are confirming the existence of aliens on Mars. You have the United States Navy that has come out and released a couple videos of UFOs and have admitted that they are legitimate UFOs. You have had the UFO/UAP report come out that state that some of these sightings cannot be explained and that they are actual UFOs. So our government, our military, and several of the three-letter agencies have all admitted aliens exist. So no longer are we talking about a theoretical thing here as far as aliens go. Our government, our military, our spy agencies have all admitted that these things exist and that they're real. So when you hear this story, the reason I told you in the beginning to have an open mind is when you hear these stories, your initial reaction is to dismiss them as lunacy. But just remember, our government has admitted to a lot of these things already. So they're not really in the realm of make-believe anymore. This stuff is verified, real. A lot of it. So that kind of puts a whole new spin on some of these things we hear. Now, the last thing I'll say about the moon really quickly is after the initial moon landings, leading up to and after, there was a lot of excitement at NASA because we were going to use the moon as a launching platform. Right? We were going to set up on the moon so that we could launch from the moon to go to Mars. Because the moon has 1/6 of the gravity of Earth, so you need a lot less fuel to leave the moon than you do to leave Earth's atmosphere. So it was thought that that would be the perfect place to set up a base to launch missions to not only Mars but other planets in the solar system. That was the plan, and everybody was so stoked about it. Then all of a sudden, things changed after we went there. And no longer did we have any desire to set up anything on the moon to stage for exploration of other planets. So what you have to ask yourself is, what changed? What made all of the experts, everybody was excited about this? What made them all say, you know what, even though the moon would have been the perfect place to stage for launch, and it uses a lot less fuel if you launch from the moon, and it's just the perfect solution, even though that's the case, we're just going to completely abandon that and not even think about it for the next 50 years. What changed? What made them all of a sudden give up that idea? Now, they never said why. They just stopped talking about it. Could it be that the reason that they decided not to do that is because they found something on the moon? Like several astronauts said they did, and like a lot of different people have said they did? And they could not set up a base on the moon to stage launches from because they weren't allowed? I mean, that's another thing that might sound crazy to you, but look at all we know is real now. Look at everything that the government has admitted to. Suddenly, the crazy no longer sounds crazy. The ludicrous becomes the believable. And the believable ends up becoming proven fact. Now, if this is a real thing, if this article is true, what you're going to start witnessing is the drip, drip, drip of information. This is the first couple drops. There will be more in the future if this is a real thing. Because one thing about whistleblowers and about the leaking of classified information is, just like every other leak, it grows. You might have a leaky faucet, you might have a dam that's leaking, something like that. It starts off as a few drips. Next thing you know, you got a trickle of water. Eventually, it's going to bust wide open. And you're going to have a river of information coming out. So this is one of those things where we shall see. As Old Boy said, he wants more proof, more evidence. It might be coming. We'll just have to see. As far as if this is true, that's up to you to decide. We've given you the evidence. We've shown you the information. I've told you things that I've heard and that I know to be true. So now you can make up your mind. So let me know down in the comments section what you guys think. As always, it's up to you. You are a free, smart person. You can make up your own mind. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm just here to try to give you some information so you can make an informed decision. So that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. It was an interesting one. And we will catch you on the next one. I'm going to throw back over to Old Boy to get his shout-outs.
Thank you, brother. I want to thank you guys all on Parax Radio for listening to us every week. Sorry we've been gone for 2 weeks because I'm still kind of getting over a cold. I'm pretty much over it. I still got here and there stuff going away, but I'm almost done completely. Thank you for listening to us every Sunday. You guys want to listen to the other shows, older and newer, go to James Hershey's YouTube page. If you guys want any of our merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Shirts, COVID mask, all kinds of cool stuff you can get. I hope you guys like how we do some of these shows. It's something different. We did something about aliens this time, and I like it. I like talking more about it, but so we're going to probably do some different stuff coming in the next year. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. So you guys, I hope you guys have a good night. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster lovers, and demon hunters. I love you and have a good night. Blessed be.
Well, as I have said in the past, when we first started talking about aliens, that as more stuff comes out and gets declassified or gets leaked, we will be able to discuss it. And that will be the pattern going forward. Right now, there's a ton of stuff that's coming out. I'm covering a lot of it on Paranormal News on the YouTube channel, and we're going to cover some of it here on Staring as well. So as more stuff gets leaked, more stuff gets released, we'll keep talking about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. The YouTube channel is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. You can find Paranormal News there. You can find Staring there. You can find Tales from the Abyss, our TV show there. Everything's there. The link to the merchandise store will be in the description box of the videos on the YouTube channel. So if you're into merch and you want to support the show that way, go to the channel and click on the link in the description box and you can get your merch. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us again. We love doing these shows and we hope that you love listening. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and until we speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.